We were seated in my mother-in-law's dining room, the kind of room designed to impress people who already believed they belonged there. Everything matched too well. The table was long, polished, reflective enough that I could see my own face fractured between wine glasses and silverware. It made you sit up straighter without realizing why. Dinner had been staged as generosity, a family night, but it felt more like an audit. Food arrived in careful courses. Portions were commented on. Who liked what was remembered or deliberately forgotten? My husband stood more than he sat, hovering near the head of the table, refilling glasses him to refill, correcting small things with a laugh that landed just a little too sharp. Where to put a napkin? Which fork to use? How something was meant to be enjoyed. Control dressed up as charm. My grandmother sat beside me, her hands folded neatly in her lap until the plates arrived. She always moved with a certain caution, as if space itself were something she had to request permission to occupy. Her back was straight, her hair pinned the way she'd worn it for years. She listened more than she spoke. She had sold her house 3 years earlier. The one with the apricot tree in the yard, the one she'd lived in since before I was born. She sold it when I was pregnant, scared, and needed help I didn't know how to ask for. She moved closer to us because she loved me. Because love, to her, was an action. It was a fact everyone at the table knew. It was also a fact no one ever acknowledged. When the caviar was placed in the center, served like an artifact, like something to be admired before touched, conversation shifted. My mother-in-law straightened, suddenly attentive. My husband smiled in a way I recognized too well, pleased, proprietary. My grandmother reached for it carefully, not greedily. Just a small spoonful, as if testing whether she was allowed. My husband's voice cracked through the room. Put that back right now! That caviar is for the elite, not freeloaders like you! The word freeloaders hit hardest. It was ugly and loud and irreversible. Silence followed, thick and immediate. Someone let out a sound that might have been a laugh if it hadn't died halfway out of their mouth. My mother-in-law froze, her wine glass hovering near her lips. Even my husband seemed briefly startled by his own volume, by how far the words had gone once released. I felt the familiar rush flood my chest. The instinct to smooth things over, to apologize on behalf of someone who had done nothing wrong, to sacrifice my own dignity if it meant restoring the illusion of peace. I opened my mouth, then closed it again. The room was already making a decision about what kind of moment this would be. My grandmother did not flinch. She did not rush. She did not defend herself. She set her fork down slowly, aligning it carefully with the edge of her plate. The motion was deliberate, almost gentle. It drew the eye without demanding attention. She looked at the caviar for a moment, then at my husband, then at me. Not to ask permission. Just to make sure I was watching. I sold my house to feed my granddaughter, she said, her not raised, not trembling. It carried in the quiet room without effort. Not you too. She paused, as if measuring the space the words had created. Then she continued, you're out. No flourish, no insult. Just a statement placed exactly where it belonged. For a moment, nothing happened. That was the strangest part. The silence didn't rush to be filled. It expanded, pressing against the walls, forcing everyone to sit inside it. My mother-in-law's face tightened. She was the kind of woman who intervened reflexively, who believed authority was hers by default. She opened her mouth. My husband scoffed, gathering himself. You can't be serious, he said. This is our house. My grandmother didn't answer him. She reached into her bag and took out a folder. Manila. The edges softened from use. She slid it across the table until it rested in front of my mother-in-law. I am, she said. My mother-in-law stared at the folder as if it were a threat. She glanced at me, searching my face for something: denial, confusion, alliance. Finally, she opened it. The papers were ordinary. That was what made them powerful. Deeds. Signatures. Dates. The quiet language of legality. Ownership transferred months earlier, finalized without drama, without announcement. My grandmother had sold her house, yes. But she had also bought this one. The arrangement had been framed as practical. Temper way to help everyone. My husband and his mother had spoken about it as if generosity flowed in one direction, as if gratitude were owed upward. Ink disagreed. My mother-in-law's hands began to shake. She set the papers down too hard, then repositioned them with exaggerated care, as if standing might restore the balance of the room. It did not. That's not, she started. That's not how this was supposed to. I'll call the lawyer, my grandmother said, already reaching for her phone. Not threatening. Just continuing a process already in motion. My husband laughed, sharp and brittle. This is insane. The doorbell rang. The timing was so precise it almost felt cruel, but later I understood it for what it was: preparation. My grandmother did not rely on hope or confrontation. She relied on clarity. The property manager stepped inside, professional and neutral. He greeted my grandmother by name first. "Mrs. Alvarez," he said. "You wanted us to witness the change." "Yes," she replied. "Thank you for coming." There it was. Authority unmistakable and mundane. No moral speech, just procedure. The property manager explained calmly. The locks would be changed that evening. Arrangements could be made for collecting personal belongings. Everything would be documented. Nothing would be rushed, but nothing would be reversed. My mother-in-law's shoulders collapsed inward. She did not cry, she did not scream. She stared at the table, at the untouched caviar arranged like a crown she could no longer wear. My husband argued in waves. First disbelief, then anger, then appeals to fairness and family. Each attempt was met with the same response: brief, neutral, final. The room no longer responded to him. Chairs scraped. Coats were grabbed. The exit was messy but not dramatic. The caviar remained untouched. When they were gone, the house felt altered. Not triumphant. Just quieter. As if something heavy had been removed without ceremony. Scuff marks marred the floor where chairs had been shoved back. The air smelled faintly of salt and wine. I sat down heavily, my hands shaking now that there was space for them to do so. "I'm sorry," I said automatically. The word rose from habit, from years of reflexive smoothing. My grandmother shook her head. "Don't be," she said. She folded her napkin and set it aside. "Dignity isn't loud." We ate something simple after that: bread. Soup. Food that didn't perform. The night didn't resolve itself neatly. I knew there would be consequences stretching forward, conversations, choices, maybe a marriage that could not survive this recalibration. Power, once seen clearly, is difficult to unsee. Later I would hear that my mother-in-law had to crawl under the table when she realized what the papers meant. I could picture it easily. The sudden understanding that the rules she enforced were never hers to begin with. There was no celebration. Just a line drawn without shaking. And on the other side of it, a space where I could finally sit without apologizing for being there.